Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or indeed good evening, depending on your time zone and depending on when you are watching this. It is Wednesday, the 10th of June 2020, and it is 30 years today since British Airways Flight 539 landed safely and with no fatalities at Southampton Airport after a blowout in the cockpit caused the captain to be partially sucked out. He lived to tell the tale, and what a tale it is. I'm James Innes, and this is my YouTube show, The Jobs Guru. I'm delighted to see you here for today's episode. I extend a very warm welcome to all those who have subscribed since the last episode. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please do think about subscribing so you don't miss out on the next episode. In today's show, I'm going to be taking a look at the latest workplace, jobs, career, and employment news. I will, as always, be covering a question from one of my viewers. I'll be talking about people telling porky pies in their CV. And next in the interview question series, I'll be asking, would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? Blimey. If you have any questions or comments as you watch, then do please let me have them below. And if you like what you see, then do please hit that YouTube thumbs up. First, as always, I've had a good read of all the main news headlines, and in particular the workplace, jobs, careers, and employment-related headlines. I said yesterday that I so wish I had some good news to report, but there really isn't any. And I'm afraid that theme kind of continues today. One looks through the papers and it's all doom and gloom, whether it's on the education front or the property front or consumer debt, or the news that health bosses fear that the COVID-19 crisis could see the number of people waiting for NHS treatment double to 10 million by the end of the year. Mind you, Prime Minister Boris Johnson is apparently going to announce later that zoos and drive-in cinemas will be allowed to reopen from Monday. Actually, I hardly think that's going to cause a great deal of rejoicing, is it? Now, when it comes to employment news, I want to focus on just one story today, as reported by The Guardian. Airline job losses could be on scale of 1980s mining industry, report warns. In a nutshell, the grounding of airlines could result in job losses on the same scale as those seen by the mining industry in the 1980s, and we know the problems that caused. This is according to a report from the New Economics Foundation. Up to 70,000 jobs could be lost in aviation, including engineering, catering, and duty-free shopping, before the end of summer even. And of course, we've already seen the news from BA, which could account for up to 12,000 of those job losses all by itself. The scale of the whole employment crisis is far from clear yet, but it ain't good. And the government needs to start shifting the focus from saving jobs to creating jobs and supporting the rapidly rising ranks of the unemployed as best as we can. There is hope that Chancellor Rishi Sunak will be making some major announcements along these lines in a new budget next month. Only time will tell. In the meantime, if you find yourself out of work at the moment, then we are, of course, here to help at jamesinnes.group. So now, on to that question from one of my viewers. Today's question has been sent in by James, great name, in Hindhead, which is in Surrey. James says, Dear James, I'm currently training to become a nurse and am having serious doubts about this as a long-term career. The recent coronavirus pandemic has highlighted just how unfairly health workers can be treated and paid, particularly in the NHS. I still have another year to go and will probably see it through to the end of my qualification. But what other career options might a qualified nurse have if they ultimately decide that nursing is not the right choice? Well, James, in Hindhead, in Surrey, your concerns are definitely understandable. I do see where you're coming from. Basically, there are a couple of ways of looking at this. Firstly, do not totally dismiss the idea of a career in nursing quite yet. Yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised if there were dramatic changes afoot for the future of nursing in the NHS and, as well as the private healthcare sector, in light of what we've seen in the past few months. However, if you do ultimately decide to head in another direction, there are many careers, I think, where the vital skills you've acquired will prove very useful, if not invaluable. There's other caring professions to consider, of course, as well as teaching, even consulting. But with the people skills, empathy, etc. that you will have needed for your nursing training, you could also look to transition to something like human resources even, maybe, I think. Either way, the fact that you will soon have completed what is a very demanding qualification will serve you well, no matter what you ultimately decide to do. And on a general note, I think I'd like to add that, do bear in mind that we are living through exceptional circumstances. Many, many people are changing career path as a result. It's become really quite normal, so you do have that to your advantage. So I'm always open to interesting new questions like James's from my viewers. If you have a workplace, jobs, careers, or employment-related question, for me, then do please type it into that comment section below and I may well feature it in a future episode of this show. And if I do, then one of my limited edition collector's item Jobs Guru coffee mugs will be yours. Here's one I made earlier. More precious than carnelian and sard. Now, each day, as well as answering one viewer's specific question, I also look into a specific issue which has been raised by a number of different viewers. And today I'm going to shine my spotlight on, well, I think I'll phrase it as a question, in fact. Doesn't everyone lie on their CV? Now, I've been asked this question so many times over the past quarter of a century that I've been in this line of work, which is quite worrying, really, isn't it, if you think about it? Without wanting to sound like a politician, it all depends, of course, on how you define lie. Research shows that around 20% engage in a significant lie. Now, that's the kind where you could be sacked as gross misconduct. Now, that's not everybody, but that's quite a lot, isn't it? 35% include at least one small porky here or there. So it's far from the majority, but there's certainly quite a lot. And just because, well, everyone else does it, and we've established it's not everyone else, but, it doesn't mean that you should. Not everyone lies on their CV. It is a minority, and it is very questionable, actually, whether those that do lie gain any benefit from it whatsoever. Whether or not you tell the whole truth, though, well, that's another matter entirely. You're under no obligation to include every detail of your life history within your CV. Any information which could be perceived negatively should generally be omitted or excluded. And I certainly don't say that's lying, that's just, clearly the sensible way to go about this. You've got limited space in your CV. You don't want to clog it up with unnecessary detail if it's not in your favour. Now, as well as heading up James Innes Group, I'm also the UK's best-selling careers author, and amongst my titles is, I have one to hand here, the Interview, Question and Answer book. It is, of course, available in all good bookshops. Or if you'd like a signed copy from yours truly, then there's a link in the description of this video. In each episode of my YouTube show, I'm taking questions from that book and I'm looking at how to answer them. At the moment, those are coming from the chapter which I entitled Weird and Wonderful Questions. Today's question: would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? It's quite difficult to say that, actually. Similar questions include, would you rather be attacked by 100 Tyrannosaurus Rex, the size of hamsters, or one hamster, the size of a Tyrannosaurus Rex? But back to the question in hand, would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? That really is a mouthful. The credit for this fiendish little question apparently goes to BHP Billiton. And fiendish it certainly is, not to mention famous or infamous. Boris has been asked it, Obama was asked it. This question's become somewhat of a celebrity, in fact. The meaning behind it? Well, I personally think it reveals much more about the interviewer than anything else. But still, how to answer? There is no correct answer. But there is a right response. As so often with these weird and wonderful questions, it's all about thinking clearly, logically and rationally, and doing so under pressure. Now, technically, a horse-sized duck would be unable to fly, unlikely to be able to walk, and would probably have great difficulty even breathing. And a duck-sized horse would have its own problems, so you'd probably win the flight regardless, actually. But as usual, I have plucked a little example from my book for you. Well, it's quite short and sweet. Clearly, I'd rather fight a horse-sized duck. The smaller horses get, the more obstinate, intractable and willful they are. Duck-sized ones would be really quite formidable. So I'd much rather just fight a very big duck. Well, there you have it, straight from the horse's mouth. Okay, so I'm currently updating the interview question and answer book. I'm working on a brand new edition. It's going to be the third edition of that particular title. If you have any interview questions which you think I should be considering for possible inclusion, they don't have to be weird and wonderful, they could just be tough and nasty, do please let me know in the comments section below. And if I use your question, then obviously there'll be a complimentary signed copy of that new edition for you. I may even throw in a free interview coaching session with me, if you like, the man who literally wrote the book on interviews. Or of course you can just pop along and book a session at jamesinnes.group. So now, we're not far from the end of today's show. I'll be back tomorrow, Thursday, for the final show of the week. Remember, this show is Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday each and almost every week. Just two more things. First, I must squeeze in some routine but important requests. Do please check me out on social media and connect, follow or otherwise stalk me, but try to avoid trolling me if you can. If you have any questions or comments about this episode, about the show in general, indeed about life, the universe, the obsolete 19th century taxonomic order of Pachydermata, whatever, do please let me have them below. If you like this episode, then do please hit it with the YouTube thumbs up. And if you've kindly given me a thumbs up already, then do think about subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on the next episode. If you've already subscribed, then it's always a good idea to ring that bell at the same time to receive notifications when I upload new episodes. And if you've already done all of that, well, thank you. Finally, what is happening in the next episode? In Thursday's show, I'll be chatting about a variety of things, including next in the interview question series. If you were an elephant, what would you do with your trunk? Gosh. Answers on a postcard, please, and let's try to keep it clean, shall we? I do hope you'll tune in. Thank you for watching today. Keep safe and be well, my friends. Goodbye.